As I stood at the entrance of the house, the evening air nipped at my skin with a chill that seemed to mirror the uncertainty swirling within me. The sky, a deep indigo, stretched endlessly overhead, punctuated by the faint twinkle of stars just beginning to assert themselves in the twilight. The wind rustled the leaves of the old oak trees lining the driveway, their whispering sounds echoing the quiet tension in my mind. In front of me, Lila turned with a smirk, a mischievous, knowing smile that sent a shiver cascading down my spine. It was a look that promised secrets, one that dared me to step forward into the unknown. "You'll have to come in for them," she said, her voice smooth and teasing as she held my keys between two fingers. The gesture was almost theatrical. Her fingers curled delicately around the metal like a chess player taunting an opponent with a dangling king. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine, mingling with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee that drifted out from the house. It was an intoxicating mix, a sensory pull that drew me in even as the rational part of my mind urged caution, whispering of lines that shouldn't be crossed. "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Alex Turner. At 27, I'm a freelance writer trying to carve out a niche in the chaotic world of words. The unpredictability of my income often mirrors the emotional roller coaster I find myself on, forever teetering on the edge, striving for stability yet constantly buffeted by the winds of change. Today, my emotional state was even more precarious, a tightrope walk between intrigue and a vague sense of impending trouble, each step fraught with uncertainty. The woman in question was Lila, the older sister of my best friend, Jake. At 31, Lila possessed a confidence that was both alluring and intimidating, a charisma that filled the room and demanded attention. Her demeanor was a paradox, playful yet inscrutable, often leaving those around her guessing at her true intentions. Lila was renowned for her charm, a dangerous allure that could warm the heart or cut it with equal ease. Her presence was magnetic, drawing people into her orbit with an effortless grace that was both captivating and slightly unsettling. Stepping over the threshold into the house, the soft click of the door closing behind us felt like a line quietly drawn in the sands of our friendship. "I put them somewhere safe," Lila assured, her eyes shimmering with a hint of mischief that danced like candlelight. As we moved through the living room, the low hum of a jazz record playing in the background seemed to weave a tapestry of sound that wrapped around us. The warm glow of lamps cast long shadows that swayed in time with the music, creating an ambience that was both intimate and surreal. "So, where exactly are my keys?" I asked, striving to keep my tone light and casual, though my heart raced with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Each beat echoed in my chest like a drum, underscoring the tension that pulsed between us. "In my room," she replied, a cryptic smile curving her lips. "But first, let me show you something." She gestured towards the kitchen, and I followed, each step a silent battle between the rational and the reckless parts of me. The polished hardwood floors creaked softly underfoot, a reminder of the history within these walls, a history I was now becoming a part of, whether I liked it or not. The kitchen was a study in contrasts, both tidy and lived in, the faint smell of roasted coffee beans lingering in the air like a ghost of mornings past. The countertops were meticulously organized, yet there was a warmth to the space, an indication that it was loved and well used. Lila paused, leaning against the counter with a casual elegance that belied the deliberate nature of her actions. Her eyes met mine with an intensity that made the small space between us feel charged, as if the air itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. "You know," she started, her voice soft but clear, "I've always wondered what you'd be like in situations like this." "Situations like what?" I asked, despite the ambiguity of the moment being abundantly clear. Perhaps it was a need for clarification, or maybe it was simply an attempt to stall, to buy time to think. "Where you have to decide if you're going to play it safe or take a risk," she replied, her gaze unwavering, pinning me in place like a butterfly on a board. I laughed, a nervous sound that betrayed my attempt at bravado. I'm usually a pretty cautious guy, I said, though the words felt hollow in the charged atmosphere. Is that so? She mused, a playful challenge in her tone as she pushed off the counter and walked past me, her shoulder brushing lightly against mine. The contact was electric, sending a jolt through my system. Let's see just how cautious. I followed her down the hallway, the walls adorned with photos that chronicled the lives of Jake and Lila from childhood to adulthood. Each frame a memory, a moment frozen in time, starkly contrasting with the fluid uncertainty of the present. The hallway seemed to stretch on indefinitely, each step echoing with the unspoken tension between us, a silent symphony of possibility and restraint. We reached her bedroom door, and she paused, leaning against the frame with a casual elegance that belied the deliberate nature of her actions. The soft lavender of the walls seemed to glow in the subdued light, lending the space an ethereal quality. Here we are, she said, tilting her head slightly, her eyes holding mine with a challenge that was both thrilling and terrifying. The unspoken question hung in the air between us. Are you ready to cross this line? Are you sure this is a good idea? The words slipped out before I could stop them, my voice betraying the conflict raging inside me. It was a question that begged for reassurance, for a sign that I wasn't stepping into something I couldn't handle. Good ideas are overrated, she said, a teasing lilt to her voice that made the statement seem both profound and dangerously enticing. Besides, it's just keys, Alex. But we both knew it wasn't just about the keys. It was about the line we were towing, the one that, once crossed, could change everything. I hesitated, the weight of her gaze on me heavy with expectation, the air between us thick with possibility. Then, as if sensing my hesitation, she pushed off the doorframe, her expression softening into something more sincere. You can always walk away, she offered, a note of sincerity in her tone that cut through the tension like a knife, offering me an out, a chance to retreat from the brink. And leave my keys? I quipped, attempting to lighten the moment, though my heart hammered against my ribcage with a force that belied my casual words. It was a flimsy excuse, a thin veneer over the complicated emotions swirling beneath the surface. Right? She laughed, the sound genuine and disarming, breaking the tension with a warmth that felt like a balm. Can't have that. With a deep breath, I stepped forward, crossing the threshold into her room. The space was intensely personal, the walls a soft lavender that seemed to embrace the room in a gentle hug. The scent of her perfume was more pronounced here, a heady blend that was uniquely Lila, wrapping around me like an invisible thread. My eyes scanned the room, a mix of curiosity and caution guiding my gaze over the carefully curated collection of books, the eclectic array of art, and the plush comforter that adorned the bed. See anything interesting? She asked, her voice close behind me, a playful edge to her words. Depends on what you're referring to, I replied, turning to face her, my mind a whirl of observations and unasked questions. She stood there, a playful smile on her lips, her eyes searching mine for something I couldn't quite decipher. There was a vulnerability in her gaze, a fleeting glimpse behind the mask she wore so well. The keys are in the drawer, she finally said, nodding towards a nightstand by the bed. As I moved to retrieve them, I felt the shift in the air, a subtle change in the dynamic between us. The moment felt fragile, like a delicate glass that could shatter with the wrong move. But instead of breaking, it held, allowing a new understanding to form in its place. It was a moment suspended in time, a breath held between the past and the future. With my keys in hand, I turned to her, a mixture of relief and something else I couldn't quite name washing over me. Thanks, I said, the word laden with more meaning than it typically carried. It was a thank you for more than just the keys, a thank you for the honesty, for the glimpse into her world, for the moment we had shared. Anytime, she replied, her smile soft, the earlier teasing replaced by a warmth that felt genuine. It was a promise of sorts, an unspoken acknowledgement of the line we had approached but not crossed. As I made my way back down the hallway, the gravity of what had almost happened settled over me. The risk had been real, but so too was the sense of connection that had emerged in its wake. A new, unspoken understanding that hung between us like a promise, tentative yet hopeful. Outside, the night air was cool, a welcome contrast to the charged atmosphere inside. I paused on the porch, keys clutched tightly in my hand, the reality of the evening sinking in. The stars above seemed to twinkle more brightly, their distant light a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the smallness of our human dramas. Lila appeared at the door, her expression thoughtful, her silhouette framed by the warm glow of the interior light. "Alex," she called softly, her voice carrying over the gentle rustle of the wind, a call that seemed to bridge the gap between us. I turned, meeting her gaze, the distance between us now both physical and metaphorical. "Yeah," I replied, the word a placeholder for the many things left unsaid, the questions unanswered, the possibilities unexplored. "Take care," she said, her words simple yet layered with an unspoken complexity that resonated deep within me. It was a farewell and a promise, a wish and a warning, all wrapped into two simple words. "You too," I replied, the weight of the evening's events settling into a new normalcy between us. It was an acknowledgement of the journey we had taken together, a recognition of the lines drawn and the ones left to explore. As I walked down the path, the familiar clink of keys in my pocket served as a reminder of the delicate balance we had struck. It wasn't a resolution, not completely, but it was something. A new dynamic, fragile yet hopeful, waiting to see where it might lead. The future was a landscape of possibilities, each step a new exploration of the contours of our relationship. And as I drove away, the soft glow of the porch light fading in my rearview mirror, I realized that some lines, once approached, don't need to be crossed to change everything. Sometimes, the approach itself is enough to reshape the landscape of a relationship, leaving it altered yet intact, with new contours to explore. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was also filled with promise. A promise of new beginnings, of uncharted territories waiting to be discovered.